Welcome to Advice for Grad Students, or what I wish I knew when I was a first or second year grad student. I'm your host, Phil Haun. I'm a graduate of the MIT Security Studies program, and with me today is Rachel Tecott, a more recent graduate from the program. Rachel also happens to be with me at the Naval War College, and so as a joint disclaimer, the views expressed today are our own and not of the Department of Defense or any of its services. So Rachel, welcome to Advice for Grad Students.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, it's good to have you back. Today's topic is the dissertation topic, committee and colloqs. There's a lot in there, so I'm just going to go and jump right in. Why did you pick this topic? Of all the lists? This seemed like a pretty hard one, and then just go.
I'm fresh out of this process. I only completed and submitted the dissertation about a year ago, and so this is very much still on my mind. And so hopefully I can provide a few insights before my brain voids itself of these nuggets.
Okay, so how do you have this broken up? What's your advice?
I have a few. I guess I'll just jump into some general ideas for how to make the most of the dissertation process. And I think step one is to just think about what an incredible opportunity writing a dissertation is. You get to sit back and think, what am I the most interested in? And then devote years of your life to answering that question. And so I think it's important to start out from that mindset of just what an opportunity you have when you are getting started in the dissertation. My next piece of advice is it has to be something that you are deeply interested in. You cannot go into it thinking, what are my peers interested in, or what is this professor mentor of mine interested in? It really has to be a topic and a question that you can't get enough of, because you're going to be stuck with it for a very long time. And if you're not interested in it, no one else will be. So think about it as something that it has to excite you. Advice 3, take a big swing. You are in an institution, if this is for MIT students, where your professors encourage big swing questions and big swing projects. And so that's really something to take advantage of. I can expand on that, but I'll leave it there for now to move to next piece of advice, which is all projects have major trade-offs. There are problems and challenges with every project and every question you could think of. And so you need to think, what kinds of challenges are you comfortable with? What kinds of challenges do you relish versus what kinds of barriers and challenges do you not really want to deal with in your project? So for instance, for me, I didn't want a project where deep data scarcity was going to be the bane of my existence for the next decade or so. So that shift, that was something I thought about when I was thinking about my project. The next piece of advice is develop a serious kind of criteria for selecting a project. And what I mean by that is really think through what your objectives are. Think through, what are you trying to accomplish academically? Are you trying to be a professor? Are you trying to develop a project that will help you if you might go into another field? What are you trying to accomplish? And then as you're whittling down the different project options, think about which ones kind of advance most of those objectives versus which ones do you think you would be compromising on objectives that are a little more important to you. And I'll leave it there for now and go back to you.
All right, well, let's a great discussion on the topic. Now let's talk about not necessarily the enemy, but the allies, the committee. So how did you put together your committee, and what was your experience, and what advice would you give as far as committees?
Yeah, I mean, the first practicality is, who are your options? The first thing is look around at your faculty, and that's going to be an immediate kind of that'll be part of your initial setup. You might have an external member of your committee, but you're going to have your chair and core members of your committee are going to be the professors in your institution. So that narrows the playing field quite a bit. But then, more substantively, try to think about what what roles different committee members might fill for you. So, you want professors on your committee who can really substantively push you and can push you on research design. Maybe you want someone who has great expertise in the methods you're employing. Maybe you want someone who has deep expertise in one of your primary case studies. And maybe you want someone who can really help you navigate the academic job market or navigate the job market more broadly, and not just the academic job market. So thinking through, which faculty will help you to advance those goals, and trying to get different professors to serve different roles for you.
Okay, well, that is good advice. I would give the exact same advice on the committee selection. I would also, you don't have to pile on the committee members too. So I always say have a minimum number of committee members, and you can always ask for extra help from faculty that aren't on the committee. Last piece, the dreaded colloques. So my experience a little dated. So tell me about your colloque experience and how to approach the colloques.
I think the first thing to think about, or the first thing to acknowledge, is that this is entirely committee dependent. There is no standard colloque, in the sense that your colloque, what you're aiming for in your colloque, is probably going to be largely determined by what your committee expects in a colloque. So that might be very different depending on the constellation of faculty members that you put together for your committee. So professors have different preferences for what they want your colloques to be. There are two colloques. There's colloque one, the first colloque, and there's the second colloque. And so the first colloque, it depends, but mostly for my cohort, the first colloque was wherever you happen to be in the spring of your third year, that's what you present as your first colloque. And so be it if everything changes after that and you abandon everything. But for other people in my cohort, and for other people before and after me, what their committee really wanted was a very solid and precise research question, very solid theory, and some initial empirical evidence. That was a level I did not have to reach in my first colloque. That was actually closer to the second colloque. So for me and for many members of my cohort, the second colloque was where you presented your refined question, your refined research design, and at least one completed case study if you were doing a case study method. And then you use these colloques as opportunities for feedback. So what happens is you present the work, and your committee responds and probes and tries to kind of either find weaknesses or direct you in productive directions, as do your peers who are in the room too, there to help you take the project forward.
Okay, great. Well, I kind of like a previous day when I asked you, what was a fail, like if you had to do it over again, your colloques, your committee, your topic, what do you think you would do different, and advice that would generate?
Yeah, I think that I worried in the beginning too much about what will other people find interesting. And I didn't enter the process thinking my job is to find an interesting question and answer it, and I can explain why it's interesting, and and present that and present the significance confidently. I spent a little too much time, I think, almost polling my colleagues, polling my peers to try to see if I could get coalitional buy-in on the interestingness of my project, rather than saying, I've prepared for this. I've taken 2 years of classes. I've prepared through general exams. I've written semester papers. I'm actually very much ready to decide what an important question is.
All right. Well, that is fantastic final advice. Thank you so much for sharing with advice for grad students.
Sure.
All right. Take care.
You too.